Laurie Stokes and Rosanna Scotto interview Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Ben Carson on January 28th, 2020.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Tell us about last night, what you saw, how much of a crisis situation from your vantage point?
Well, obviously it's a significant problem. We have about 78,000, people involved here in New York City. Between New York City and Los Angeles, it's a quarter of all the homeless people in the country. And I think it's something that is actually solvable. Because,
How so?
well, I look at a place like Tokyo, which has even more people than New York, and they don't have a homeless problem.
What are they doing right?
Well, for one thing, they don't have a bunch of restrictions on being able to build affordable housing, and they're able to use a lot of the new technology that exists. Because many of the people who are homeless, some people think that they're all mentally ill or they're all drug addicted, but a lot of them simply can't afford to pay their rent or to pay their mortgages.
So how do you then begin to implement the ability for them to be able to afford housing?
Well, take it two different tacks. One is obviously you look for the main reason that they can't afford places, the barriers to affordable housing, and you work with the local jurisdictions to tackle those. But the other thing, the thing that we frequently forget about, is it possible for us to empower people so that public housing and assisted housing does not become a destination, but rather is a bridge. And it's one of the things that actually has been going on here in New York City.
Well, you know what? The rent is too damn high. And no matter who you are, we all feel it. So I could imagine if you're not making more than $15 an hour, what it's like to live in this city.
Very difficult.
You were out there with the mayor last night. What did the two of you talk about?
Well, we talked about the fact that there weren't nearly as many people on the street as you might think.
Why? Because we see it.
Well, because in New York City, 95% of the homeless people are sheltered. So that means there's a place where they can stay that's under roof and that's
What's the percentage again?
95.
Because we see them out during the day.
And in the subways and all over the city.
That tells you how many there actually are if 95% of them are sheltered.
So maybe, how long were you out last night?
A couple of hours.
A couple of hours.
Yeah. And it wasn't very cold.
It wasn't very cold. So I'm just wondering, do you think that count would be different if you made it during the day rather than at night?
It could be, although, I talked to some of the people who've done the counts many times. I've done them daytime and nighttime, sometimes multiple times a year. They say the numbers don't vary tremendously. Because we have a large number of people, and because in New York City, as I said, the vast majority of the people are sheltered, and we know the exact numbers on those.
So I'm curious, I know that you've been to California, you've seen the crisis with the homeless population there, you've also been very critical of lawmakers out there, local lawmakers, and how they've handled the situation. Last night, and of course President Trump has also been very critical of our local governmental leaders. So last night you're out there with the mayor. Is the mayor doing something wrong? Are you going to echo exactly what the president has been saying and be critical of Cuomo? Or can we work together?
Well, if you go back and look at the things that I say, they're not inflammatory things, because I don't think that tends to be helpful in any way. Mm-hmm. I think the way that we solve these problems is with a combination of federal, state, and local people working together. Unity is our strength. And, I have to give, some credit to the system here in New York City, which has taken the vast majority of the homeless people off the street and at least put them in a place where they have a shelter over their head, where there's a degree of safety involved, but there still remains a lot of work to do.
So let's talk a little bit about NYCHA, because this Friday is the 1-year anniversary that you made an agreement between HUD and the city and the state. Do you think that they're doing enough? Has enough changed in the NYCHA system in the last year?
Well, I don't think we've seen as much for the inhabitants of those dwellings.
Why not? Why not in a year? Have we not seen enough?
Because the infrastructure needed to be organized.
Because we had a moderator, right? Someone who was supposed to be...
Now we have a monitor. Now we have a new CEO of NYCHA. Now they put in place a number of ways to make sure that the information that is transmitted to HUD and other government agencies is accurate. We have a 24/7 emergency call center, particularly for heating problems.
Are the heating problems better this year than they were last year?
Well, it's not as cold this year, but so far so good. But my point being that you put the foundation down first because it was really in bad shape. And then once that foundation is there, I think you're going to see a lot more progress this coming year than you did the first year, because those are things that you're not able to see.
We hope so.
Yes.
By the way, congratulations. I heard you have a new grandson.
I do. He's the cutest little fella.
Who does he look like? Do we have an idea of who he looks like yet, or does he look generic?
Everybody sees some of themselves in him.
Secretary Carson, pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing to, for New York City.
We need the help. Thank you.